I'm Mike Omoniyi. That's my name, Mike Omoniyi. And I'll start with where this idea really started. I think it was 1 a.m. I was asleep, and a friend messaged me, and he said, Mike, there's an argument going on Instagram, and you need to get on there. And at this stage, two angels, because I don't believe in devils, popped up on my shoulder. One said, Mike, you know, you're a grown man. You got to work in the morning, go to bed. Count your losses, go to bed. And when another one popped up and said, no. Spend the next 3 hours on Instagram searching through all kinds of different profiles, trying to understand what's going on. And as a nosy researcher, I kind of listened to the latter. So at 4 a.m., I was on Instagram, searching up this debate, trying to find out who said what and what's going on. And then I came across this profile, and it was that of a very big social media influencer, you would say. This is a person who has lots of followers online. And I clicked on her story, and I read a statement she made, and it really got me thinking. Here's what she said. She's in the middle of this debate, by the way. She said, I don't care what anyone says. I'm not taking it back. I never apologize. Now, instinctively, this kind of struck me as quite endearing. I thought, here's a woman who has been pressed on different sides, and rather than cowering and pandering, she refuses to apologize. She digs her heels deeper into her trench, and she says, I'm not going to say sorry. And I thought, this is really good. What an independent, strong woman. I thought that's really cool. And then I started thinking about this a bit deeper. What was she actually saying? And this is when I realized that this statement actually has deep ramifications, which we're gonna talk about later. But for now, I want us to park this little story into our pocket, just tuck it away. We're gonna visit it later on, but I want us to take us somewhere else. And I want to take us to Nigeria quickly. When I was 6 years old, this is when I first discovered that I was tribal. I was playing Ludo, and I got out pretty early, wrongfully, I might add. But then I realized after I got out, even though I had no stakes in the game, I still wanted my friend to win. I didn't really watch the game. In fact, I think I walked out. But deep in me was this desire that my friend should win. And I thought, where does that come from? Now, many years later, I realize now that we are all tribal. I think tribalism is an endemic feature of the human experience. You know, we feel safe in tribes. We get to assert ourselves in tribes. They make us feel good, right? And you know, I think buried deep in our psyche is this nested need for, or proclivity rather, for finding people who look like us, who speak like us, who talk like us. It makes us feel a collective sense of identity. And for the most part, it's a good thing. In fact, I think I can divide this room into tribes right now. Should we try it? Okay, hands up if you like Marmite. There we go. Hands up if you hate Marmite. Yeah. Two groups. And there's always a weird third group, which are people who've never tasted Marmite, but will try and force themselves into one camp. Like, oh, I would hate it if I tasted it, and I would love. And you think, well, why? You've never tasted it, but there you go. Let's try something else. This flag is one that gets people's heart beating fast. Some people go, I love this country. They might want to break out in song randomly. No? Okay, that's good. But to others, actually, this is a very problematic flag. It's emblematic of the empire, and an unwelcome and an invited pillaging of resources and artifacts still unaccounted for. Now, I know we've gotten a bit political. People are thinking, this is not what I paid for. I wanted something a bit lighter. So let's try something that's going to unite us, something a bit more jovial. This guy. This is Donald J. Trump. And to some, he is a man who speaks his mind, who tells it like it is, a self-made business mogul who's going to make America great again. And to others, his accusers, they see him as a sexist, racist ideologue who threatens democracy as we know it and the security of America. But other than that, he's a fine lad. Very quickly, you see that we can be very tribal. With little help, we can find what group we like. And for the most part, I think society is full of many ways we get to be tribal without harming anyone. So, for instance, sport. When we play sport, you watch football, you cheer for your team, and that's a healthy way to channel your tribalism, your tribal instincts. Something happens when you take part in the political process, whether you're debating politics over a drink with a friend or you're taking part in voting in the political process. Equally, you get to be tribal and no one gets harmed by it. And perhaps the most visceral expression of tribalism is when we think about nation states. A lot of us are proud to be British or proud to be Scottish or Welsh. We'll see how long that lasts. But ultimately, this is a very safe way of expressing your tribalism without hurting anybody. But you probably saw it coming. Although all these different ways are ways we can express our tribalism without hurting anyone, there's also a very dangerous undertone to tribalism, which is what we at the Common Sense Network try to combat. You see, if we visit the story I told you at the start, and we think about this woman, what she basically was saying, and I did some research, like I said, I was up for 3 hours. I did some research. She was in the wrong. She had made a joke that was, tasteless, so to speak, and people were saying, hey, take the joke down, and she was like, I'm never taking it down. So she was in the wrong. But presented with information, rather than saying, oh, here's a chance for me to learn, she said, no, I'm not gonna cower. I'm not gonna admit I was wrong. I'm gonna double down on my thoughts. This is very interesting. She said, I don't care what anyone says. I'm not taking it back. I never apologize. Unwilling to yield to reason and logic, can't be persuaded. Simplify the debate, she did. And she said, this is my stance, and that's it. And therein lies the first problem with tribalism, is that it stops us from using reason and logic when it comes to debates. Case in point, climate change. When you consider climate change and the debate between the Republicans and the Democrats, it's a real mess. Because what climate change is a political football, when really we should be listening to the logic and research of scientists. I mean, 97% of them agree, and they never agree on anything. That ought to make you think, what's going on here? But when you subject climate change, something that we should be looking at through reason and logic, to politics, and it becomes something the left loves and the right hate, it becomes a political football, and it moves between houses. And whilst that's happening, no less, forest fires are increasing in intensity and frequency. And we can see the causes of man-made climate change all over the world. Whilst this is happening, we have a leader of the free world who doesn't believe it's real. Says it's an invention by the Chinese. The second issue with tribalism is it kind of reduces the point of this word, persuasion. You see, one of the best things about life is that you can be persuaded. The time you don't know something and then you know it, it's a great kind of feeling of learning something new. But we now live in a world where people don't want to be persuaded, can't be persuaded. In fact, we laud and we celebrate those who don't change their mind. We go, that's a strong, decisive man, or that's a really strong-headed woman, because they don't change their mind. That's really odd. Because you see, holding on strongly to a wrong idea isn't strength at all. It's actually weakness. So when we meet someone who says, oh, I've been a Tory voter all my life, we kind of go, oh, this is a really, really strong-willed, powerful. Well, no, she isn't. If she's been presented with information for 50 years and she's never changed her mind, kudos. But I suspect that's not the case. I suspect she's put on her ideological glasses and will not move, because everyone in the family celebrates her for being the woman who doesn't change her mind. And thirdly, and perhaps this is one that really worries me the most, what tribalism does to us is it forces us, through this kind of seductive quality, to simplify debates into simple binaries. It helps that way, because then you can demonize the other side and say, this is wrong and this is right, and we're the good guys and we're the bad guys. As a researcher, I can pretty much tell you, no issue is ever simple. No issue has two sides. Typically, there's multiple sides. But you see, when we are tribal, when we live in tribal bubbles or echo chambers, we take a debate like immigration and make it simply a case of good guys and bad guys. Donald Trump's the bad guy and Justin Trudeau with his devilishly silky hair is the great guy. Well, no, that's not the case. We make immigration a case of drawbridge uppers and drawbridge downers, those who love immigration, those who hate it. That's not the case. I suspect the answer is somewhere in between. Same thing's true of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Some people will have you believe it is only a political conflict, when it's not. It's a religious one, it's a cultural one, and there aren't just two sides. There's multiple sides, all with different ambitions, different things they're campaigning for. And if we want real solution, we're going to have to get past seeing only two sides. Common sense is defined as sound judgment in practical matters. That means considering lots of information, facts, reason, and logic. It means being open to being persuaded that perhaps what you thought before was wrong. It means not simplifying debates to simple binaries, but understanding that sometimes the answer is somewhere in between. When my mum uses this phrase, though, that's not what she means. When she says, Michael, use your common sense, what she's saying is, Michael, I've thought about this, just listen to me. She's saying, I've figured it out. Why haven't you? Just do what I say. That's forget about reason and logic. Use your common sense. This is so basic, Mike. And I'm there, I go, yeah, well, she's my mom. I've got to listen to her. This is not how the word was intended to be used. You see, when people say stuff like common sense gun legislation, what they're saying there is, hey, we thought we figured it out. Just listen to us. It's common sense. Everyone should do this. encouraging you through that seductive quality again to resist the fact that this debate might be complicated, that you might be able to be persuaded and change your mind, and to settle for something really simple. Here's a man, and he's not like a hero of mine or anything. He's just a guy who wrote a great song. He wrote a song called Imagine. He said, imagine if there was no country, nothing to live or die for, no religion to. It's a song you should listen to if you have some time. People go, what is that? I'll make a note of that and listen to it when we get home. It's a great song. But I want us to, for a moment, imagine if there was no country. Imagine if we resisted the seductive qualities of tribalism and instead we sought to kind of seek a new common sense. Imagine we had people who felt okay saying, hey, I don't instinctively know what I think. I change my mind sometimes. I'm not really sure what's going on. Imagine we had that. People who wouldn't be bullied by social norms to say, hey, you're this or you got to be this, but who go, listen, let me figure it out. And at any stage, I might change my mind, and that's okay. Changing your mind is still okay. I know Twitter makes it seem like it's not. You tweeted it at 6 a.m., you've got to stay with it till you die. No, you can change your mind. Imagine if we did this. If we did this, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. Maybe we could have had an honest debate about Brexit. Now, I'm not too worried about the outcome. That's not. What I'm worried about is the debate. Because the debate we had was one typified by lies and demonization. So we couldn't get into the facts and the logic and the reason. People said, I would not be persuaded. This is what I believe. Britain must be British, and that's it. And you go, what about the NHS? What about this? We couldn't have that debate. Maybe if we resisted tribalism, this wouldn't have happened. For those who don't know who that is, that's Alex Jones. He's a right-wing provocateur. And he essentially had his virtual identity pretty much erased online when a lot of the tech firms came together to say, we've had enough of you. But maybe this could have been a great opportunity to have a debate about free speech, where it ends, where it starts, what counts as a platform. But when we're tribal, we don't get it. We say, just silence him. I don't like hearing him because he doesn't fit my predispositions. Maybe if we weren't tribal, this wouldn't have happened. Maybe we could have, he's back again. I tell you what, he's probably watching this speech right now because there's 2 pictures of him in it. But maybe this wouldn't have happened. Maybe we could have had a real debate about post-materialism in metropolitan states in America and the brown belt states. Now they've been ignored for a long time. Maybe we could have that chat, but we don't have that chat. Because again, we're super tribal. And if we resisted tribalism, if we really got serious with seeking common sense, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Now, this is a tragedy. This is when Oli Mers lost in the X Factor final, and I'll never forgive him for it. He should have won, but that's something else. Maybe we wouldn't have had this kind of tribalism. Where they basically, let's not go into that. The point is he should have won, but we'll leave that there. If we are serious about common sense, we have to, on a personal level, decide that I will no longer be someone bullied by the forces out there that say this is what I gotta believe. If I'm young, I gotta believe this. If I'm old, I gotta believe this. If I'm black, I gotta believe this. If I'm gay, I gotta believe. We gotta leave that and say, instead, I'm gonna engage with the debate. I'm gonna really see what I think, and I'm gonna learn that it's okay to change my mind. I'm gonna sometimes believe this, sometimes believe that. That's okay. This is what we are doing. Redefining common sense, building a new network called the Common Sense Network, where we are encouraging young millennials in their formative years not to fall prey to that seductive thing that is tribalism, but instead to engage with debates and discussions. So we've built a website, a network where you can go on and read all kinds of articles and all kinds of debates, and you can have events where you meet all kinds of people. It's so important that you leave your echo chamber. It's so important that you no longer are a prisoner, so to speak, to your own opinions and views, and you start to consider the fact that new knowledge might be somewhere else. This is what we are building. This is what we are passionate about. Now, what can you do leaving this chat? Well, you can say this was a nice TED talk, nice little talk about being open to people. I'll tuck it in my back pocket and maybe I'll use it in 30 years. Or you can leave this building saying, I'm going to become a common sense champion. In my personal, I don't have to announce it. I know some of us want to go on Twitter and say, I am now a common sense champion. No, it's not about that. It's about deciding in your own self that I'm going to start listening to people who don't have the same opinions as me. I'm not going to tell them 6 reasons why they're wrong. I'm just going to listen. It works if we all do it. Have you figured that out yet? Because people go, what if people don't listen to me? It works if we all listen to each other. This is what I say. Some of the biggest issues we're facing, whether it be climate change, will be kind of race issues and how countries relate and nuclear war. We won't solve these through tribalism. We'll need to listen to each other. So that's one thing you can do. Second thing you can do is you can start believing one true fact, which is that nothing is ever binary. The world is not as simple as we like to make it. Those, sometimes with ill intent, would like you to believe that the world is very simple and that's the other you must hate. But I tell you this, that's not the case. The world is not binary. Things are complicated. You will change your mind at some stage. And if we do this, if we all leave here and say, I'm going to go back to wherever I come from, I'm going to message 10 people who disagree with me and have a chat with them. No one's doing that. But I'm going to personally make a concerted effort to start listening to people, to start being driven by reason and logic and not just my feelings, to understand that I can be persuaded, to reject the seductive nature of simplicity. If we do that, we might just be able to build a new common sense. Now, to achieve the future we all want to achieve, that's not a should, that's a must. Thank you very much.